All right, let's dive into a really powerful story. It's about a dog that looks just like a wolf and the amazing people who've dedicated their lives to rescuing them when things go wrong.
I mean, it's a fair question, right? You look at an animal like the Czechoslovakian Wolfdog and you just think, wow, they're absolutely stunning. But the sad truth is, so many of these beautiful dogs end up abandoned. And why that happens, well, that's the big puzzle we're going to unpack today.
So, where does this whole story start? It all kicks off with that wild, exotic beauty. People see an animal that looks like it walks straight out of the forest, and they want a piece of that untamed spirit for themselves.
For a lot of owners, the attraction is almost all about the look. They get the dog as a kind of cool accessory, something that looks impressive. But here's the catch. They often have absolutely zero experience with what it really takes to care for an animal this demanding.
But that dream, it can turn into a really difficult reality and fast. This is the moment where the fantasy of owning a wolf crashes right into the tough day-to-day work.
Choosing this breed without doing your research, it's like you're playing a video game for the very first time and you immediately choose the expert difficulty setting. No tutorial, no practice. They get intense separation anxiety if they're left alone, they need a huge amount of exercise, and they have this strong, dominant personality that requires a really confident leader. This isn't just a pet, it's a massive commitment that changes your whole life.
So here's the most important point. The problem isn't the dog. It's not their fault for acting like, a wolf dog. The problem is a failure on the human side of things, a failure to understand, a failure to prepare, and a failure to provide the kind of leadership and environment this animal absolutely needs to thrive. So what happens when that dream completely falls apart and the owners just can't cope anymore? This part of the story is tough to hear, but it's so important to understand. Dogs show up at the rescue for all sorts of heartbreaking reasons. Sometimes, owners just throw their hands up and admit they can't manage the behavior. But in the worst-case scenarios, these dogs have survived severe neglect or even horrible abuse, arriving with things like cigarette burns or broken bones. And sometimes, it's just a tragedy, like the sudden death of a really good, loving owner.
But in the middle of all this sadness, there's a real place of hope. Let's talk about the incredible rescue station in Olomučany, a place built specifically to heal these amazing animals. This place is truly one of a kind. It's run by Sonia and Vojta Radkovic-Karel, and it's the only official station in both Czechia and Slovakia that is 100% dedicated to this one breed. Since 2010, they've been creating a sanctuary for wolf dogs that have nowhere else to go. And their impact has been staggering. They've helped or found new homes for over 100 of these dogs. That single number tells you just how big the problem is and just how incredibly dedicated this small team has to be. Their process is so careful and thoughtful. First, they actually try to help the current owner fix the problem, so maybe the dog can stay in its home. If that doesn't work, the dog starts a long, slow retraining process. They talk about healing a broken dog's soul, and it's not quick. It can take more than a year just to rebuild that trust, way before they even start looking for a new, experienced home. And since the station is funded entirely by donations, they have two amazing ways for people to help out. You can directly adopt a rehabilitated dog, but only if you have the right experience. Or, for the dogs who are just too traumatized to ever join a new family, you can do what's called a remote adoption. You sponsor their care so they can live out the rest of their lives safe and happy right there at the station.
So all of this, it all comes together to teach us a really powerful final lesson, and it's one that applies to way more than just wolf dogs. This right here is the most important thing to remember. The wolf dog is the mirror of its master. With the right leader, someone who is patient, knowledgeable, and totally dedicated, it can be a wonderful, loyal companion. But in the wrong hands, that mirror reflects a suffering, confused animal. It reflects its owner's failures.
And that leaves us with a final thought, because this isn't just about wolf dogs, is it? This story asks a question we should all think about before bringing any animal into our lives. What does it truly mean to be a good leader? It's not about being the boss. It's about understanding, it's about patience, and it's about the responsibility we take on for another living being's happiness.